he brought us The Walking Dead, which I said, zombie books don't sell. Give us 5 issues so we can get out of this and not lose too much money, and boy, was I wrong.
I just said, yeah, I lied to you, man. There's no aliens. There's no alien invasion. It's just a zombie book.
Yeah, Walking Dead kind of blew up a bit.
Image rode the wave of the comic speculator craze to huge success when it first launched, but had now lost 2 of the founders as sales across the comics industry tanked. But then a kid from Kentucky walked in, pitching a black and white zombie comic that would bring in another resurgence.
The existence of a comic shop was completely unknown to me. I'd buy them in grocery stores, gas stations, and Walmart. And so my first, hint of the existence of Image Comics is I finally, beg my way into a stop at the Comic Interlude. And, I open the door and I'm walking in and there's this giant Youngblood poster. So I walk in and I go to the clerk and I'm like, what's this Youngblood thing? And he's like, you haven't heard of Image Comics? And I'm like, no, I have no idea. And he's like, oh my God, ERIK, LARSEN, Jim Valentino, Marc, Silvestri, Jim Lee, Wills Portacio, Rob Liefeld, they're all leaving. They're all leaving and they're going and they're doing their own books and they formed this company called Image Comics. And I'm like, oh my God. And then he's like, you wanna start a pull folder? And I'm like, well, what the hell is a pull folder? Like, what are we talking about here? And he's like, well, when any of the Image Comics come out, you just tell us if you want them and we'll hold them for you and we'll put them in this box. And every time you come in, like they're there. And I'm like, what is this magical place? Like, oh my God.
It will hold your comics for you.
It's just life-changing. And so for, the longest time, I had a pull box at this comic store that just said Robert Kirkman, all Image titles.
I met him as a fan. I met him when he was a kid. He drove me to the airport in Chicago. After a show, he just wanted to pick my brain.
I was like, oh, where are you going to the airport? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, you had a cab? And he's like, oh, I don't have one. I think I'm just going to find a cab somewhere and I'll go. And I had driven there from Kentucky, so I had a car. And so I go, well, I can drive you to the airport if you want. And he's like, oh, that'd be great. And I'm like, all right, I'll get my car. I'll meet you out right over here. He's like, okay, cool. Pick him up. I don't know how to get to the airport. And this is pre-GPS. This is pre-iPhone. It's not like I can just do this. I know that there are planes flying in that direction. And I know that the Rosemont Convention Center is right next to a freeway. And so I'm like, I'll just get on that and go in the direction of the planes, and I'm sure I'll get there. And we got lost. He almost missed his flight.
LARSEN gave Kirkman and artist Cory Walker a shot with the Super Patriot miniseries in 2002. Then came his idea for a different type of superhero comic.
He kind of stopped doing some superheroes for a while. I mean, the only ones left were Savage Dragon and Spawn, and Powers had been around, and Invincible was actually part of a new initiative to do more superhero books.
Robert Kirkman was very young, and he kept trying and trying and trying, and God bless him.
Invincible was going to be the cornerstone of like a new superhero line that Jim wanted to launch.
I started really falling in love with the idea of Invincible always playing against type. It's everything I've ever wanted out of a superhero book, but we always zig where superhero books zag.
Invincible would become the most successful new superhero comic launched since Spawn a decade before. But Kirkman had another pitch in his pocket, a black and white comic about a zombie apocalypse. ERIK Stephenson was Image's marketing director at the time. He liked it, but Valentino, the publisher, wasn't biting.
True or false? Did he actually lie to you to get you to finally say yes?
Yes.
He said, you have to have a hook. There has to be a hook to this book because I can't just sell a zombie title. Like, nobody's going to want it. And we were on the phone. And so just kind of like right on the fly, I was like, I didn't tell you. Very sorry, I was keeping this close to the vest. But the hook of the book is actually that, as aliens invading.
The book starts off like a zombie comic, but later on it's going to turn into an alien invasion comic. And I'm going to set it up. There's going to be all kinds of Easter eggs in the first couple of arcs so that when the invasion happens, people are going to be like, oh, I saw this all happen.
Eventually, we're going to find out that this is all a plot to take over the world from aliens. And
so I tell Jim,
which I said, zombie books don't sell. Give us 5 issues so we can get out of this and not lose too much money. And boy, was I wrong.
Flash forward several months. I'm reading, I want to say the 4th or 5th issue of Walking Dead. And I'm like, Robert, there's nothing in here that indicates that there is ever going to be an invasion.
And I just said, Yeah, I lied to you, man. There's no aliens. There's no alien invasion. It's just a zombie book.
If he would have told me that the book is about a father and a son trying to survive against unbelievable odds, I would have said yes right away. Because I'm a father with 2 sons, you know? So that would have gotten me. So all he had to do was tell me the truth about what the book was about. But he didn't do that. 3 times.
They were soon laughing all the way to the bank. The Walking Dead became a massive critical and commercial hit.
Usually the first issue will sell and then the second issue will be half. Now that did happen with Walking Dead. And then the third issue is when retailers have seen what happens with the first issue. So it started ticking up and up and up and up and up with each consecutive issue. So it was pretty early on that it became a phenomenon.
No, you know what Walking Dead did was, I think that it inspired Image to take more chances with the types of books we were doing, but it also inspired the creative community to kind of look at projects that maybe they'd been keeping at the back of their mind and thought, oh, nobody's ever going to want to do this. Every creator who came to us from that point on was not just trying to have a hit, but they were trying to do something that they really wanted to do.
And that was what Valentino wanted to do as publisher. Open the doors to unique ideas like Eric Shanowar's Age of Bronze, which collected several Eisner Awards. Or The Pro, a bonkers prestige one-shot about a superpowered hooker by Preacher's Garth Ennis and the dynamite combo of Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Conner. No other publisher could, or would, touch a book like that.
So there was an audience that didn't need to see, people leaping above buildings and flying and, punching through walls. More grounded human stories. And I think Jim thought we could find a niche by publishing books that Marvel and DC just aren't going to publish.
That was a very, very key point. I don't think Image could be what it is today if Valentino hadn't taken those steps. And I actually think Powers was a huge part of that.
Right alongside Kirkman's success with The Walking Dead, the up-and-coming Brian Michael Bendis had turned Powers into a top book and was now also writing the Spawn spin-off, Sam and Twitch. He was about to pick up a job at Marvel writing Ultimate Spider-Man, and that did not sit well with McFarlane, who, let us remind you, quit Marvel after guiding Spider-Man to its best-selling books ever.
It was weird to be fired. For people who don't know, I was on Sam and Twitch and things were going well, and then I got offered Spawn. Spawn I didn't connect to as much as Sam and Twitch, but he heard that I picked Spider-Man over Spawn, which is not what it's not what happened. I completely see where he would think that. I'm so sorry, but that is not the case. But because I got fired off of Sam and Twitch, it allowed me the time to create Jessica Jones.
How long did it take for Todd to get over that with you?
We shook hands a couple years. I literally haven't spoken to him since. But we shook hands a couple years ago in San Diego. We walked by each other, and everyone's doing fine.
With Bendis heading to Marvel and Spawn as the only regular Image book near the top of the sales charts, the company needed to find more hits.
Jim Valentino's connections were very much with the indie crowd. And while I think some good books came of that, there was also a lot of books that were not very commercially viable, to say the least. And that proved to be something of a problem because creators weren't getting any money, and so those creators would leave. That's why I wanted to try my hand at being publisher, because I had more of the connections with the Marvel and DC guys. I thought I could help out some of the books that were floundering in that regard.
Tense time, rough time. Were you happy to move on?
No, I wasn't. No, it was ERIK LARSEN making a power play. And I wasn't happy about it, and still am not. But, things happen.
If it was a power play, it was like, these books aren't doing very well. This company is taking on water. Something needs to be done. If he is not able to write this, then I'll do it.
But are you guys okay now?
Yeah, we're fine.
And it wasn't a happy time for me because I wasn't getting a lot of work done on my own book, which is what I got into this business to do. It was my own comics. So as soon as things were headed in a decent direction and it looked as though the company was headed towards calmer waters, then I stepped back from that and went back to getting my damn book done.
Eric Stephenson would eventually take over as publisher in 2008, With The Walking Dead, the first Image book to be consistently at the top of the charts since the Founders books, one of the first moves he made was making Kirkman an Image partner. He's the first non-founder to land in this role.
So ERIK Stephenson called me up one day. I think Erik Larsen was on the phone too, and they were like, so, it looks like, if it's something you're interested in, like, maybe Image would, like to make you a partner of the company. And I was just like, what? Like, are you kidding me?
All from
driving a guy to the airport and getting lost.
Robert's the poster child of how Image works, like the ultimate. He's that guy that he's beyond the peak. He's beyond the cloud. He's
beyond those clouds,
right? It's like he's where that's where the peak is, right? And still climbing. So, he's the best success story Image could possibly have.
Becoming an Image partner for Kirkman meant going all in on creator-owned comics. No more work for hire.
Ding, 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 ding. That's the magic. That's why there was never the equivalent of a writer's version of what we did. They tried it, but it failed miserably. Why? Because none of them quit their other competition work that they were doing for direct competitors.
They didn't go all in.
They didn't go all in. That was it.
I'm a partner in a company that my pull box was the basis of at the first comic shop that I went to. All the posters on my wall were Image, and now I'm at the center of it, which is extremely surreal. Being a partner at Image Comics is far more surreal and impressive to me when I think back on what my former child self would think is the coolest thing about my life now. Way better than The Walking Dead show. Like, you go back to 12-year-old Robert Kirkman and you're like, you're a partner at Image Comics, and they turned one of your comics into a TV show. And he's gonna go, partner at Image Comics? What are you talking about? Really? Oh my God. I don't even care about TV.
Robert Kirkman became lightning in a bottle #2. So it was easy for the creative people to go, wow, Todd, when you and Jim and Rob did it, it was a different era, and you can't replicate what you did, and so we're just gonna stay with Marvel and DC because it's more safe, and there's less risk, and you can't replicate what you did. And then he came along, poof, and the lightning hit again, called Walking Dead. And now they went, maybe it's possible.
With new blood and renewed purpose, Image was getting its groove back, and Hollywood was paying attention.